Oh, put it on that table over there. Because when you start talking, I'll probably get bored and look at it. Just kidding.
All right, guys, welcome to another interview. I want to introduce you to a really good friend of mine, and I think over the next couple days, he's going to have some great stuff to share with us. YouTube world, this is Luke Beasley. Luke, I'm so glad you're on the channel. Why don't you start us off with just telling us about who you are. You got a super interesting story. Give us your 2 minutes of fame.
I just realized I have a Yeti with our name on it right here. Luke and Ashley.
That's not going to count as the introduction.
No.
You're going to have to go a little further than that.
All right, so I'm Luke, and my wife is Ashley, and together we are a husband and wife photo video creation team. We've been doing photo and video for 14 years.
14, woo.
And so we do a lot of weddings, and then we do a lot of commercial corporate stuff. So, so we're in our studio actually.
Yeah, sitting here in the studio, which we spend a lot of time in. Our company does a lot of work with Luke and Ashley brands, and so we've been in here and filmed a lot of episodes. And I said, how about I bring my camera in so we capture a little bit. You're not used to sitting on this side of the table with me. Usually you're right there making all the magic happen. But today, I brought my camera in and I get to interview you. So 14 years, that's a long time. You've learned a lot, I'm sure, in 14 years.
One or two things.
One or two things.
Sure.
We're gonna cover those things while we're together. But I want to go back. What did you do before you did photography?
So from 2002 to 2008, Ash and I were both in the Air Force, and then we got out in 2008, and then we bought a water business, like the 5-gallon jugs, the 3 gallons, you know, so it was already existing.
Yeah.
And so we bought it. It was a 20-year business. Did a lot of, they were already established, had 3 delivery trucks, had 11 or 13 employees in there. And then we bought it in March 1st of 2009, and then June of 2010, we walked out of that business, literally walked out.
Walked out.
Locked the door and left everything in there. So within a year and 14 months, 15 months, we had a fantastic failure. That's what we call it.
Oh, a fantastic failure.
That's what it's called, yeah.
Whew, I'm sure there's some lessons in that too, which we'll get to.
There's a lot.
We won't go to those right yet. We got some more ground to cover in today's video, but I'm going to put a pin in that because I want to hear more about that. So you turn the key, you leave the business in your fantastic failure. Where do you go from there?
On my knees, because I didn't know what to do. No.
That's when you really start praying, right?
Yeah,
What's next?
From there, I started working for a company doing installs for electronic classrooms. So like if you go to a college or something like that, you push a button, projector comes on, or the screen comes down, projector comes on, TVs and stuff like that. There's podiums that the colleges will have, and then all that control equipment, and then the installation of the TVs, projectors, pulling cables and stuff like that. I started doing that. A friend of mine got me a job at a company he was working at. And then the 10 months of me doing that gave me enough experience to get into one of our local shipyards where the Navy needed a classroom person, I guess admin or whatever be the case, or a tech guy to manage 50 classrooms and conference rooms.
Oh, wow.
So there was somebody at our church that knew that we were looking for a job, and with our $86,000 in debt and on food stamps and 3 kids and a whole bunch of other things that we can get into later, that opened up a door for us to dramatically increase our income and go over there. And then during that same time frame, 2011, we started our photo business.
So if you didn't have the failure and you didn't work for running the college setup on their equipment and their multimedia, would you have gotten into the shipyard, do you think?
I wouldn't have gotten into the shipyard, but I would have had a photo job.
You would have had a photo job.
Yeah, because the funny thing is that in 2008, I got interviewed, because I was taking pictures at our church, this church that we were going to at this time. And when getting out of the military, somebody was like, oh, you should go work over here. You know, there's a guy at Fort Eustis, a local Army base, that was like, you know, that they do photo and stuff. They needed somebody. So I actually did a sit-down interview with them and got accepted the job, a federal employee job, in 2008 as a photographer. But I turned it down because I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I was like, no. I want to buy this business. I want to do something in whatever. So yeah, so I could have shortcutted, or I could have been where we ended up at probably 4 or 5 years sooner. But we wouldn't have learned all the lessons that we learned at that time.
But they're valuable along the journey.
They are.
I'm sure sometimes you go back in your memory bank and pull some of that out and say, okay, we've dealt with this in the past. This is how we're going to handle it from here. Or we've dealt with this in the past. This is how we're not going to handle it from here. Because that's part of the entrepreneurial experience, is learning those lessons. Okay, so take me back now to, you're at the shipyard. What happened between there and now, and what made you leave and have the business you have today?
Oh, just the pursuit of getting out of debt and trying to provide for the family. And then, so what got us into photography was somebody at our church one day was like, hey, we want to pay you $25 to do our family photos. And I was like, you can charge money for pictures? Like, when we got married in 2002, we eloped in base housing in Alaska. We didn't know anyone in college or know anything like that. So there was never, we didn't know that there was a thing out there. Like, growing up as kids, we would go to Olin Mills photo booths, wherever those things were at.
JCPenney's or the mall.
Yeah. But no, there was never a thought process of, I need to go on the internet and find a wedding photographer, or, because we just weren't there in 18, 19, 20 when we got married. So, and we just didn't think about it. So when somebody had asked us that, and we're like, oh, well, let's go on the internet and see what this is and see if this is a thing. And then this whole world opened up that you can make money taking pictures and doing stuff. And then when you're 86 grand in debt and you're trying to find a way to get out of debt, and you're like, well, if we do a couple shoots, and we started charging family sessions at $25. If we can do, a couple of those, that's $100. We just got an extra $100 to pay a bill. And so it was just that hustle of like, we can do this, and then we have to get better. Oh, we got to buy a camera. And it just all kind of compounded. So starting the shipyard, I took a $53,000 salary. And before that, I have a tax return that says $14,000 I made in 1 year. Like, that's how broke we were. I was making like maybe $600 every 2 weeks. And so got that job offer. So last week we made $600. This next week I'm gonna make $1,500, and that was like life-changing, that extra cash that you have. And so that was just one of those things, and then that's how the business got going. So within 4 years, by 2015, we had paid off all of our debt. The business was picking up, and then I actually moved over in the shipyard from the classroom side to the media department, and was able to become a photographer over there. So,
and that helped you get your legs underneath you, right? So you could get out, get experience with the cameras.
Yep, more experience. It was on the industrial side, headshots, just military kind of thing as a federal employee. And then at the same time, the business is doing well on the side. So both of those in parallel allowed me to grow faster, in a sense, in the knowledge, because then you're around other peers that are shooting and stuff. And then we're also trying to pursue excellence and figuring it out on this side and all that fun stuff. So.
Okay, so for our time together in this video, we're going to do a couple days with Luke, because I wish I brought my notebook. There's already 4 or 5 things he said that I said, okay, we're going to go down that because I think it's going to be helpful. But for this video today, if somebody is on the front end of that, if they are feeling like, hey, it's about time to close my business, it's about time to lock the door, I'm going to have a fantastic failure, I'm on the front end of one. Or if they're thinking, hey, I'm stuck in my job and I want to start a business and I'm frustrated, or I'm drowning in debt and I'm frustrated, what would you tell them?
Hide. Just kidding.
What good advice would you tell them now that you've gone through these things in your own life?
It's funny, we tried to file for bankruptcy after we shut the business down, but we were so broke, our $100 bankruptcy check bounced. I'm serious. It was crazy. But I would say what was the first question? Which part?
I would just say if they feel like they're in a hopeless situation and they don't quite know what's next, what kind of got you through to that next?
Well, honestly, what got us through being sued 4 times and not knowing where things were what was going to happen, where was income going to come in at, how were we going to do these different bills. Honestly, as a Christian, it was trusting God. There was somebody in our local area puts up these signs that says, no matter what, trust God. I don't know if you've seen those, the red and blue ones, whatever the case. So every day on the way home, there would be the sign as I got off the interstate to go on a different road to get where I need to get to. And I would hit it every single day. And it was like a constant reminder, like, no matter what, trust God. And I just always thought to myself, I was like, all right, well, and there's I think Matthew 6:23, probably got the verse wrong, but it just talks about, the flowers and the birds and the foxes, they all are clothed and they got homes and they're valuable to God, but we're more valuable. And so like, if I can learn just to let go and allow him to do something through that, I think that's what got us through everything. I mean, you've got to plant seeds. You've got to like plant seeds in the field in the direction that you want to go, and you just got to wait. The hardest thing is waiting for that harvest to come, because you're waiting. You're like, okay, I'm gonna invest in this, or I'm gonna put money towards this, or I'm gonna start getting good at photography, or start doing these different things. But it's gonna take some time to figure it out. And I remember one point sitting in a parking lot crying because I just got the phone with this lawyer that was suing us from a client when we had our water business, and I was just like, man, I wonder what life is going to look like 6 months from now. Like, where am I going to be at 6 months from now, a month from now? Because things can change. Things can change over a 24-hour period or a 36-hour period, to where like 2 days ago, whatever that worry was is no longer there because money came in or a new client came in. But in that moment, you're sitting and you're like, oh, despair. My life's going to fall apart. But if you I've learned just to let go and just let God take control. And there's some things I can't control. That's tomorrow's problem. Today, I just got to worry about today. And sometimes you get in those moments. So,
I love that. A business mentor told me a long time ago that you rarely harvest in the same season that you sow.
Yeah.
And so at times you can be hungry. Harvest doesn't happen right away. You can be hungry, but you have to keep sowing, because the next season is coming.
Yeah.
And so this season you guys are in now, the season of the studio, and the season of our family's done multiple family sessions with you guys, and the wonderful photos that hang up in our house. None of that seemed like a reality when you were sitting in that parking lot.
Yeah, at that time in that parking lot, this wasn't a reality.
Right.
It wasn't even an option on the table. It was just, how do we, get our 2 kids that we have at the moment fed, or diapers, or different things like that, or how do I deal with being sued?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you're right. It's just you have to move forward in a positive way, in the right way, and then just believe that sowing, the fruit of that return is going to be there.
Yeah. So the encouragement here is, if you're in that season right now, keep sowing things that are reality, not yet, that are in the future. Make decisions now to sow so you can get there. I think that's a really, really good lesson. So here's what we're going to talk about. I'll give you a little preview because I've already got my mind going on the direction you and I are going to go. We're going to talk about first businesses. I think that's something you probably want to hear a little more about, of what you just talked to us about. We're going to talk about debt, because you and Ashley are leaders in helping people get out of debt and championing paying things off and not owing anybody anything. Love that. And then we're going to talk, I think, about photography and videography. I think we'll just do a whole session on that, because you've taught me so much about how to use this. And if you really want to see a test study, go back to my first posted YouTube video, my first one, not the first one of this challenge. Before this challenge, I had one video before that, and it is awful. I watch it now and cringe. But so much of what I've learned from Luke and Ashley. So join us on the journey over the next couple days as we continue this together. We'll see you tomorrow.